Well, my presentation has been well signposted throughout the speech last night from Melissa, from Rebecca, from Craig, so thanks very much for that. Probably more signposting than the Tauranga report. But I've got, just before I get started, I've got a little thing to do with you. It's slightly interactive. You might see on your table there's a beer coaster, actually, the Innovative Farmer. If you're close to those, could you please hand those around to everyone? So my topic's on innovation, and one of the key points I'd like to get across today is that we need ideas and we need to share them. So I'm going to give you a moment, a short moment. I usually give a bit longer, but you're a very smart crowd, so you've got a short moment. And that's just to think about an innovative idea. In agriculture, might be inside the farm gate, up and down the supply chain. What is the idea that's been banging around in your head, or the frustration you feel, or the problem that you have? Have a think about that for a couple of moments. Write it down on the back of the coaster now or at the end. I'd like you to, perhaps when you put a beer down on this coaster later, or a glass of wine or a coffee, have a talk about it with your alumni colleagues. I'll just give you a moment. One idea, first one that pops into your mind. A problem, a frustration, a great idea you've got. Okay, so we haven't got all day. I'm going to carry on. So I'm not a technologist. I'm not a futurist. I'm a dairy farmer. I'm not very techy, in fact. My wife's here and she can attest to that. I typed out my Nuffield report like this. I don't touch type. But I've got some ideas, and I foresee we've got some problems, some major challenges and some opportunities that will require new ideas. So I focused my Nuffield research on going to the hotspots of innovation around the world, to Israel, to the Netherlands, to Silicon Valley, to Europe. Really to kind of lift the cover on innovation, understand how it works. Go to the big ag R&D facilities, the abandoned warehouses where the startups are setting up. Really get in and find out what was going on. I started poking my nose around so much I had the FBI and the Israeli government following me around. Probably Mossad, I thought. But today I've got 10 innovation insights for you. First one, wicked problems in food and agriculture. So you might have heard of wicked problems. If you're not, if you haven't heard of them, they're complex, incomplete, changing and contradictory elements. There's no black and white answers, but trade-offs. And when you find a solution to one problem, another one emerges. I think producing food for 7.6 billion people in the world, rising to close to 10 billion by 2050 as it's predicted, with less land, a smaller environmental footprint, with climate change, changing consumer demands, while also improving the livelihoods of rural communities, as a set of very large wicked problems. So what are people doing about it? Well, you might have seen some of this last night from Melissa. This is a vertical garden in New York in an abandoned warehouse. This is insect protein. There's actually fly larvae in Cambridge. This is a graph of which takes you to the end of 2017. 150 million shoebox-sized satellites were being launched into space. This is the Impossible Burger, which you know about now. And as Craig said, I'll tell you a little bit about Amazon Go. So I had a meeting with Amazon in Seattle in their headquarters, and headed downstairs and thought, I'll drop into the little Amazon Go supermarket, not knowing too much about it. Poked my head in. There was a guy taking a bag of vegetables off the shelf, sort of put them in his bag and walked out the door, and I sort of did a second take. Should I grab this guy or call police? What's going on here? And then I turned around again, and a lady grabbed a nice steak off the counter and walked out the door as well. And that's how Amazon Go works. You tap your mobile phone on the way in, and then you simply take goods off the shelf and walk out the supermarket door. And it's using a combination of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and computer vision to see what you're taking and then charges your credit card. This is one slide I picked up at an AgTech conference in Silicon Valley. So just probably shows you the huge array of things going on in this sector, from sensors and systems through to post-harvest. There's a lot, and at that time there's $4.4 billion flying into AgTech just in the first half of 2017. So what do we do if we've got all of this stuff coming up at us, potential disruption, these different ways of producing food? What is the big 1,000 kg bull that's coming behind us that's about to steamroll us? And what do we do about it? Well, I'll add another overlay. It's a VUCA world out there. You've heard that from Rebecca. Volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. It's actually a military acronym, so you can imagine people said this is a VUCA situation in Afghanistan. Be aware. But if you think about it, I think it applies to agriculture just as well, agriculture and food. So volatile, you think prices, politics, the weather, increasingly volatile. Uncertain, I think there is a level of uncertainty about our production systems, how we're producing food in this country and globally. And it's complex. Globalised world, lots of interconnections, supply chains, supply networks, things that happen over the other side of the world quickly ripple through to what's happening here and vice versa. And ambiguous. If you ask 10 people on the street what is sustainable agriculture, you get 10 different answers. Is it organic? Is it non-GMO? Is it grass-fed? Is it regenerative? Or is it conventional food at the lowest cost price to feed our people? So we've got some very smart people and some good direction from previous speakers about what our strategy should be for food and agriculture. This is actually a quote from a movie. As I was flying over the Pacific to the US, I watched Lincoln, which Daniel Day-Lewis does a great impersonation of Lincoln, and so it may or may not be Abraham Lincoln's quote, but he says it in the film. A compass will point you to true north, but it's got no advice about the swamps and deserts and chasms that you'll encounter along the way. If in pursuit of your destination you plunge ahead, heedless of obstacles, and achieve nothing more than to sink in a swamp, what's the use of knowing true north? So my focus is really, I think we've got smarter people than me to come up with true north. What is the strategy? I think a big key bit missing is what are the tools that are going to get us there, and what are the swamps, if you like, that we need to be aware of as we make our way. So what are the swamps or deserts or chasms? One thing is farmers slow to take up innovation. That's what people believe. OECD reports show that agriculture is one of the least digitised sectors. Also, our top-down models of innovation are struggling to cope with the VUCA world, with a fast, complex, moving world. There's a whole host of well-known problems. Bureaucracy affecting innovation. It's the real nemesis of innovation. Silos between institutions, incumbent resistance, technology, terminology, bridges we need to cross, funding, etc., etc. So to help us guide through the swamps and chasms, this is what I suggest. It's a farmer-driven and led model of innovation, bringing together the innovation actors. So we've got your startups, your corporate innovation, research and development, consumers, NGOs, society, and of course funding. But it's really putting farmers at the centre. So why is that? Why would we be good at innovating? Well, the problems are ours, and problems are best solved by those closest to them. Also, we've got a tremendous amount of entrepreneurial, innovative capacity in our farmers. We need to harness that. Give a farmer a problem and they'll look to solve it. If we drive up their farm track and try and sell them something, they'll probably turn you around and head back the other way. At least that's what I do. As I said, farmers are also a dependable antidote to bureaucracy. They can smell it out. If innovation starts getting bureaucratic, they either put up their hand and tell them, or they walk out the door. There's something better to do on the farm or in the orchard. I saw a good example in Salinas Valley, which is a huge fresh produce region in the US and California, produce 60% of the fresh greens for the US market, 30% of the strawberries. And the farmers there were in full crisis mode. Donald Trump had come in and said, no more Mexicans, we're going to build a wall, we're going to kick them out. So their Mexican labour force was dwindling. They went up an hour and a half up the road is Silicon Valley and said, look, we really need some help in addressing these issues. How are we going to harvest our crops? How are we going to do these things? So soft robotics, sensors, artificial intelligence, they're really working hand in glove with technologists there to develop the solutions to help them with their problems. Collaborative networks. I've learnt a lot from Rebecca today on them, but it's a key part of innovation. Effective, diverse, collaborative networks where ideas can collide is what we need. The biggest problem is not really the shortage of ideas. There's tons of great ideas out there. It's the fact that you might have half a great idea sitting over here in one person's mind, half a great idea sitting over here in another person's mind, and if they never meet, you won't get innovation. So we need these places where good ideas can collide. ERP Agree is a major project in the EU, which I learned a bit about. They bring, again, putting farmers at the centre of things, bringing the innovation actors around them, and focus on problems that those farmers need to solve. There's 3,000, or they're aiming for 3,500 projects, and all the information goes up online. It's distributed, so you've got kind of a great cross connection of ideas, and the next set of ideas run off those. Connecting with consumers and society. Innovation must help us make the connection with consumers and society. There's a disconnect and a sense of disillusionment between farmers, consumers and society. We see that from, I think it can be overstated, but I think society are feeling that disillusionment, but also farmers are feeling disillusioned. We've gone out and done our best and then find that society's hitting us over the head for the way we farm. So there's that disconnect, that disillusionment. We must address it. And in this space, transparency is a great credibility builder. I saw that at Fair Oaks Dairy Farm. It's a dairy farm in Indiana. They have 37,000 cows, milk them through 11 72-bale rotaries. And it's just a truly impressive, highly innovative place. They've got a JV with Coca-Cola for Fair Life milk, biodigesters. There's a calving auditorium. You can sit in a room about the size and watch cows calve. They open the gates. So they get 500,000 to 600,000 people through the gates every year. But they've thought very hard about that. If you're going to have a 37,000 cow farm and you close the gates, people are going to wonder what the hell's going on behind there. So they've actively opened up. They've got restaurants, cafes. Actually, they call it the Disneyland of dairy. There's a full interactive display, which is great. You can practice speed milking and all the rest of it. So they've really put some effort into it and some costs. So I spoke with Gary Corbett, their CEO, and said, what is the cost? And got a bit of a breakdown of it. But he said, look, can we afford to do this? Actually, can we not afford to do it? Can we afford not to do it? Sorry. So building an innovation mindset. The biggest barrier is our own mindset. Innovators who I've met around the world think differently. One thing, farmers aren't generally comfortable with sharing their ideas. It takes a bit of warming up. There's a feeling that maybe it's not good enough, their idea, or it's not ready to share. We need to get people out of their comfort zone to be thinking differently. In the Netherlands, huge, second biggest agricultural exporter in the world, 1/6 the size of New Zealand. They're challenging their farmers to think out 15 years, connecting them with experts, consumers and NGOs. They take them to the zoo, look at how people interact with animals. They take them to the supermarket, look at how people interact with their food, getting them out thinking differently. They believe sustainable innovation cannot be attained by technical innovation alone. It requires socio-technical change. So that means we need people to change to get a system-level change. McKinsey came up with their 3 horizons of growth. I've adapted it for innovation. I think it's a great way to think about how we can actually get there. So first horizon is the incremental, the work that we're doing now to stay profitable, stay in business. Just jump to the third horizon for a second. The third horizon is looking out 5 to 10 years, 15 years. What are the opportunities we can see out there that we think are going to be great for our business? The second horizon is a bridging horizon. What's the capability, the skills, the capital that we'll need to get there? So we get to that third horizon, we'll really start making hay. So in conclusion, the innovative farmer. Innovation is all about solving problems by those close to them. Farmer-led and driven innovation. It is increasingly about collaborative networks of people forming and providing spaces for our ideas to collide. It is about engaging supporters and our detractors in the innovation process. It is bringing people together to share ideas much more systematically than we've ever before, through local, regional, national and international networks. Some of these challenges and problems we talk about, we think we're very focused in this country. It's the world over, but we can lead that. It won't be one big idea, it will be a shift in collaborative consciousness or collective consciousness, that together we innovate. I believe New Zealand can solve the wicked problems of food and agriculture, position our food industry for success in the future, and be the go-to place for agri-innovation. Thank you.